From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Good morning, everybody. 8 o'clock on the dot here on Local 4 Live. It's raining right now in parts of Metro Detroit as you're looking at live radar right now. Also in parts of northern Michigan and getting a much heavier downfall. But this is just the beginning. We've issued a forewarned weather alert for much of the day with 2 rounds of storms expected. We're watching one round this afternoon with the potential of severe weather as you're looking live at DTW right now. We are waiting to see the impact the storms could have on travel and, of course, on our roadways later on this afternoon. The storms are hitting places like Oklahoma City right now as we look live right there. Last night, parts of that state saw multiple tornado warnings and severe thunderstorms. Welcome to Local 4 Live, everyone. I'm Nick Monticelli. Forewarned meteorologist Ashley Barrissey is going to be here in just a moment. Thank you for watching us here on Local 4 Plus. Click on Detroit.com or streaming on YouTube. If you need to get out the door, we understand mornings are pretty busy, but you can listen to us in your car podcast style with the Click on Detroit app. It is a busy day full of conversations, including going into the Local 4 archives. Michigan Central Station hitting a major milestone. We're going to look at its past, its present, and its future. The station's CEO is going to join us in just a moment for that conversation. But first, we're going to start with the weather. Ashley tracking those severe storms. Ashley, it's the timing that seems to be kind of the tricky part right now.
Right. As new models have been coming in, the timing has been kind of ping-ponging all over the place. And so we do believe we're going to get 2 rounds this afternoon. And we'll just have to see how much some of this morning rain and round 1, I should say, of the afternoon stuff kind of sucks the energy out of the atmosphere, or will it lead to a little more convection? Right now we have those lightning strikes across the area with those bubble up showers. Now we do have another development here west of Fort Wayne towards Chicago down into Indy. In fact, severe thunderstorm warning popping right now into Indianapolis. So this is what's going to be round 1 of the afternoon storms. Round 2 into the evening is still just north of St. Louis. And so that comes with a low pressure system that will track this way. Right now, we just have a warm front lifting across the area, and that's what's leading to some of the lightning strikes. So you see pockets of heavy downpours from Detroit down towards Monroe. But let's talk more about what's on tap for today. And so Storm Prediction Center putting a good chunk of southeast Michigan under a level 2 or level 3 risk. So from Detroit down towards St. Louis, that enhanced level 3 risk. The rest of southeastern Michigan will be under the level 2. As far as the specific threats out there for the later part of today, midday into the evening, we could see wind gusts exceed 70 miles per hour, and we would possibly get hail over 1 inch in diameter. We're talking quarter-size hail. Flooding remains a big factor, given that we'll likely pick up 1 to maybe isolated pockets of 3 inches of rain over the course of the next 24 hours. And we could see some rotating storms with this. Now, the bigger threat will be west of Metro Airport, but all of us do have that risk factor. It's a warm start to the day, but the rain does arrive in the heat of the day, so that's going to keep those highs in the mid-80s. We're going to dive into that hour-by-hour timeline to make sure you're prepared for this afternoon and evening in just a few minutes.
Okay, Ashley, thank you so much. Appreciate that, especially the breakdown we're going to see here in just a few minutes. A live look now at Michigan Central Station this morning. It was 1 week ago that the station celebrated an anniversary because on June 11th, 2018, the Ford Motor Company bought Michigan Central and the former Detroit Public Schools book depository. They had a vision to turn that 2 acres of vacant land into a major hub for innovation. That obviously became reality. So we dug into the Local 4 archives and found the story we first showed you when Ford officially took over the station. It brings me some great joy to say Rod Maloney has that story.
A century ago, when Detroit was second only to New York City, this was the place to be, the train station. Over time, it diminished in many ways. By 1992, when the Maroon family bought the place, it really fell into disrepair. The Maroons say they wanted to redevelop it, couldn't do it profitably. That is, until today. And now, Detroit's redevelopment goes into overdrive.
Now former owner Matthew Maroon delivered an I told you so moment.
The depot will become a shiny symbol of Detroit's success and progress. Ford Motor Company's blue oval will adorn the building.
This after the city council ordered the building demolished in 2009. Maroon and his father wanted to rebuild the place, but instead greenlighted a giant development Ford plans for the depot and the next door book depository.
I know that the city was looking for a moonshot with Amazon but I think we got what's really fitting for our city.
We haven't often gotten good looks at the inside of the old ornate classic. Actor Shia LaBeouf made it a movie star a decade ago in the first Transformers. Ford's Syed Deep tells us its pending transformation remains top secret.
For all of us who've grown up here, it's an exciting day for the city. It's an exciting day for Ford, right? And together with the community here, right, we'll announce our plans for Michigan Central Station and Corktown on June 19th.
Richard Gonzalez and Alvia Flores live in the neighborhood. He played hooky from work today to hear the historic announcement.
It's going to make it more beautiful than it already is, and this is what we needed for the city of Detroit to come back together as it was when we were kids.
But talk about having a premonition there. So Rod showed us where we were 7 years ago. Let's talk about now where Michigan Central is going. Joining us this morning now, Josh Seirofman. He is the CEO of Michigan Central. First of all, I know a 7-year anniversary is kind of a random day to be celebrating here, but when this all came to fruition and you realized at the time that Ford was buying and this was going to be a much bigger to-do, were you thinking then that this project would become what it is now, or were we still a little unsure?
Well, you know, it's really gratifying to see the broadcast from then, because the vision that Bill Ford had, that Ford Motor Company had, has really come to fruition and has come to life. And, you know, there's endless stories about the challenges, whether the physical restoration of the building or, you know, how do you create that vision and how do you make it happen? But it's real. And I don't think anyone, you know, at Ford, I think people never doubted. I know Bill never did. And we're really happy to see it. It's also a 1-year anniversary from actually opening the station.
Right. I don't know about you. I tend to wear my emotions on my sleeves, for better or for worse. And I remember standing in one of the grand arches of the large room there, and I kind of shed a tear just looking around and looking at the architecture and the rehabilitation and the revitalization of the building. Like, can you imagine if all this was gone?
Yeah, you're not alone. The building has a real power to it.
Yeah.
You know, we've had, since we opened it, over 300,000 visitors, and probably 75% of them have shed a tear, and people get very emotional. Everybody has either a personal connection to it, and it could be intergenerational, or just what it symbolizes and its rebirth. It really has this emotional resonance for people.
Yeah, so can you kind of walk us through what has happened inside the building and what's there now? Because even since the opening, you've done some incredible things.
Yeah, we've really been going there. In the station, in the tower, we have our youth floor, which was the first people working in the building since the early 1980s. With the Boys and Girls Club, with our Google Code Next program. Ford has 3 floors of business units and a collaborative hub. On the ground floor, we do all kinds of events. We do public programming. We do tours. It's really a hub of activity all the time. We have retail that's active there. And we just announced the next big step for the building, which is the hotel, Nomad Detroit at Michigan Central.
Yeah. When you look at each individual floor, it seems like each floor has its kind of own story and own character too, doesn't it?
Yes, that's very true. And you know, my favorite is that the top 5 floors were never finished and never occupied. There was this notion that other railroad companies would bring railroad clerks and others to have their offices there, and it didn't happen. And so for the first time now, those floors will come to life.
So what did it look like up there when it had never been touched, ever?
The top 2 floors are amazing. The ceilings are high, the windows are beautiful. You know, you can see them from the ground. It's like the rest of the building. There's a ton of graffiti and signs of the period where it was, we refer to it as a temple of culture during that time.
That's a very nice way to put it.
So, you know, it's actually really spectacular, and having the hotel up in there will be amazing.
Going through we'll call it the rehab process, how many different times, or maybe you lost track of it, how many did you peel back a layer and realize, now we have to do that, now we have to pump out this water, that has to go, we're going to do this over here?
Well, you know, the famous story is when the team discovered a second basement. And, you know, for a building that scale, how you hide a basement is complicated.
Yeah. In terms of the stories from people visiting and going back, you know, decades of what the building used to be, do you have a favorite? Have you heard a favorite?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. You know, I've heard so many stories of people either arriving for their first time to moving to Detroit, whether literally older folks who still remember arriving, coming from the South or around the world. A lot of really moving stories of people either leaving or arriving back from World War II. It's really endless. They're all amazing. It's every single story is moving.
When Rod's story was airing, you and I quickly talked about how they could have been gone. Like, the city council voted to tear that down in 2009.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, I can't begin to fathom what an immense loss that would have been for this city.
Yeah, it's an incredible story and lesson in perseverance and the power of restoration.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that building has such history, and you can feel it. And what I love is that we're doing all this work now also around innovation and technology. And in the building next door, also the former book depository building, where, you know, we've now got 240 companies involved at Michigan Central. And they're doing cutting edge work in these older buildings, and there's something very special about that.
And I wanted to talk to you more about the idea of this innovation hub, right? So, you know, it's for us older folks, some of these buzzwords, I don't understand all of it, but this is a very big deal because some of the next tech and next big ideas are going to come from these two buildings.
Oh, there's no question. Amazing work happening around what we call advanced aerials, so the use of drones for all kinds of purposes, work around electrification, around material sciences, advanced manufacturing is happening in those buildings. The future could very well be invented there.
Yeah. Speaking of the future, what does the future look like for the station? Like, what's next? What are we doing now? Are all the floors filled?
Well, we'll work on the hotel to get to our opening in 2027, and that'll take both the top 5 floors and some of the amazing spaces on the west side of the ground floor. We'll continue with our public programming. I should say on Friday the 27th, 2 things happen. One, we have pop-ups from 2 amazing Detroit institutions, Source Books and People's Records. We'll be setting up in the shop at Michigan Central. And that Friday night, we'll have a takeover by People's Records with all kinds of programming for the public. And we'll have more to come on additional tenants, on more retail activities. We'll have a lot to keep going with.
I remember one of the initial conversations during the grand opening was that bottom floor, you were hoping for, kind of an open-air marketplace where little shops and coffee shops, and you could just kind of hang out and spend your afternoon there. That's where the direction we're heading in, right?
Oh, yeah, and one of the best-kept secrets is, we have Yellow Light Coffee and Donuts, but the room that used to be the women's waiting room is now something we call the study. Anybody can go in there and hang out, do work, have a coffee, relax. It's an amazing experience, and that's open every day.
Right. It's also fun, I'll say, because I'll use the word synergy. When you just walk around that area, not just even inside the building, but you kind of get the feel that everything is now connected. And there's people moving around, and there just seems to be, again, this synergy that the station brought back to life.
Yeah, I love to hear that because that's what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, right. And was that the goal? Was that something in your mind?
Yes, absolutely. The goal is to both foster this community of innovators, but also create a really dynamic environment where everybody feels welcome and can be a part of it.
Right. What's it like for you now, 7 years later after the purchase of this? Do you think, or did you know it was going to feel like this, or were you hoping, or both?
Well, I just get to be the voice you're talking for. There's an incredible team of people for the last 7 years have been involved, and I think for every single individual, it's been both an extraordinary experience and one they've never doubted. There's been a conviction, and it's true for everybody who's worked on it, that this is an incredible responsibility we have.
And the venue itself, I mean, if you can rent it out and have parties there now, can't you?
Oh, yes. We have a thriving events business. We have all kinds of things happening there. It's an amazing space. We've had, from conferences and conventions to weddings and other events. It's always something happening.
Can you imagine the photos? I'd love to see them. All right, Josh, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate
Thank
you coming early on what is today? Wednesday, on a Wednesday morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks, man. Take care. All right, when we come back, we'll also talk more to Ashley about these storms coming in. But first, a live look at the big house this morning. The 4 Michigan universities just named some of the top universities in the entire world. I'll give you a hint. U of M is on that list. Welcome back, everybody. Let's get to some of your headlines this morning. A woman back in court today charged for her alleged connection to the death of 17-year-old London. Now, Charlotte Pendergrass is accused of lying to police officers during the search for London Thomas. Pendergrass is the mom of the teen's ex-boyfriend. Thomas went missing in April after her family last saw her at the boyfriend's home. Her body was found weeks later. Nobody has been charged with her murder. Today's preliminary exam will decide if there is enough evidence for a trial. Some drivers in Grosse Ile will have to take the bridge to avoid toll construction. The Parkway Bridge will shut down Monday for structural repairs. Work is expected to last at least 2 weeks. During the closure, traffic will be rerouted to the Grosse Ile toll bridge. Getting a live look at the big house this morning over in Ann Arbor. According to a report from U.S. News and World, 4 Michigan universities are making the list as some of the top in the entire world. The highest ranked Michigan college is the University of Michigan, coming in at 21st. Now, a live look over in East Lansing, because MSU was the next Michigan university on the list at 133rd. Wayne State and Michigan Tech also made the top 1,000 universities across the globe. At the very top of the list is Harvard. All righty. It is a storm day, a forewarned weather day here in the Local 4 studios. You're looking live right now in Ludington, where the storms are on the west side of the state. Rain moving through a portion of that area and the Midwest as storms are approaching here at home. So Ashley Barrissey has decided she wanted to stay away from me today. Well, that way you can actually focus on the forecast and see some of the models behind you.
Yeah, stand in front of the map here and be able to point things out for you more specifically. So yeah, it is a very active day, starting with this morning, even though the severe threat is not right now. That's going to be after the lunch hour and beyond through the evening. So let's kind of dissect what we have going on here. We've had some bubble up showers. In fact, if I was to loop this over the last 3 hours, it would go from nothing to just kind of seeing these popcorn showers develop. A lot of lightning down just to the southeast of Grosse Ile over the water there, but we do have some rain showers across the board. And so I'm zooming in a little closer to Southfield, and so that's where you can see that heavier downpour developing, especially for folks that would be traveling along the freeway there. But let's go ahead and zoom out, because I put a tracker on here, even though this isn't severe, but just to show you when that heavier rain will be pushing towards Utica, Madison Heights. And so Madison Heights will see that within the next 2 minutes. Warren just around 8:30, and then off towards Roseville at 8:40 and Fraser 8:42. So that's going to be that cell moving in that direction. I've also put our 3-dimensional radar on, kind of slicing this for you to show you how tall these clouds are in the upper atmosphere. So about 30,000 feet, and that's what's going to indicate those tall cumulus clouds. You see the lightning strikes within it, and that also can create some really gusty winds when you have the tall, ominous clouds. So forewarned weather alert issued, not for right now, even though we have the inconvenient weather, but for this afternoon and evening, because that's when those thunderstorms could reach strong to severe limits. And so this is what we have on tap for the second half of your day. Enhanced risk for severe weather for western Wayne County, off into Livingston, Washtenaw, Monroe, and Lenawee counties. Slight level 2 risk in yellow across the rest of southeastern Michigan. Everything's on the table today. So wind gusts could exceed 70 miles per hour. Those would be destructive winds. We could see some large hail that will be over an inch in diameter if we were to see some of that large hail develop. Flooding is likely in some spots. We're looking at the possibility of 1 to 3 inches of rain over the next 36 hours. And then we could see some tornadic activity, some rotating storms within either round, but more specifically round 2. So round 1 will be right around the lunch hour into the early afternoon. Round 2 more so into the evening. When I talk about an inch in diameter hail, what does that mean? Putting it in perspective, about a quarter size hail or bigger. We could see some ping pong size hail, and that would reach those severe limits. Satellite and radar, warm front, creating that instability this morning. So we're on the warm side, sitting in the 70s, and we have those popcorn showers. But you can see a stronger line developing south of Chicago. That's tracking towards Detroit. There's your round 1. Round 2 is with this low pressure system pushing towards Illinois, coming out of Missouri. So exact track 4D, tilting the radar, going underneath that cloud cover. Ton of lightning with that round 1 that I was just pointing out, but we still have a fair amount of lightning across lower Michigan right now with the non-severe storms. So it does look hazy with rain off in the distance. 76 in the city, 71 in Ann Arbor, 74 in Pontiac, and 73 in Monroe. And as we map out the rest of your day, even though we got a warmer start to the morning with that rain hitting and the peak heat of the day, probably similar to yesterday, mid-80s on tap with the strong to severe weather for your afternoon and evening. Here's a snapshot around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's that round 1 crossing the area. And then 6 o'clock onward, now we have round 2 pushing in. And even around 8 or 9, we're still looking at some heavy downpours pushing up into the thumb with more widespread rain on tap around 10, 11. Overnight, we'll start to see that weaken. And then we have more light showers that will drape the area for at least the first part of your Thursday before we dry things out. Rainfall forecast, as mentioned, anywhere from 1 to upward of 2, closer to 3 inches in some spots. So flooding will remain a concern. And then our attention is going to shift to a dome of hot temperatures this weekend into next week. That results in temperatures rising mid-upper 90s, and the heat indices Sunday and beyond will be in the triple digits. And so that's going to lead to possible dangerous heat. So your full forecast, I'll step out of the way so you can see it. Forewarned weather alert for today. We dip a little bit tomorrow, mid-90s, especially for the Ford fireworks under that sun. So folks want to make sure they're prepared if they're going to be outside all day on Monday in downtown Detroit.
Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and 100 degrees.
It's Michigan.
Ashley. Yeah, right.
Wait 5 minutes, Nick.
All right, a live look at Houghton Lake this morning. Rain on the way, as Ashley was just saying, for what could be those potential severe storms. We're going to talk about a weather danger that could pose just as big of a threat as tornadoes. We're talking about straight line winds when we come back.
I'm forewarned meteorologist Ashley Barrissey, tracking scattered showers and storms across the area with a severe threat as we head into the second half of the day. Round 1 of potentially severe weather right now sandwiched between Chicago and Indianapolis, with round 2 north of St. Louis. But in the meantime, we are dealing with several lightning strikes across southeastern Michigan. Let's zoom in closer to Exact Track 4D, where some heavy rain coming down in pockets of Wayne County, also up towards Port Huron. The bulk of the activity up in northern lower Michigan. So let's map out the the rest of your day? We do have an enhanced risk for severe weather as we head into the afternoon and evening, especially for Metro Airport on West. Slight risk for the rest of southeastern Michigan. We'll see round 1 after the lunch hour. Round 2 will be into the evening. All threats on the table this evening. We could see wind gusts upward of 70 miles per hour, large hail, flooding is possible with some heavy rain, and we can't rule out a tornado or two. Make sure you stay with your forewarned weather team as we'll be bringing you live updates throughout the day.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
And welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you for watching us on Local 4 Plus. Click on Detroit.com and on YouTube. If you need to get out the door right now, I get it. You've got stuff to do. Just listen to us in your car, podcast style, on the Click on Detroit app. Just don't try to watch us, but I understand why you'd want to. Here's a live look of Oklahoma City right now, where our top headline today, of course, is the weather. It's calm right now, but in just a few hours, we are going to start seeing a wave of showers and storms that could turn severe later in the day. Let's take a look at the west side of Michigan right now. Charlevoix is this live picture where the rain is starting to fall. Ashley has been tracking this for several days now. One of the challenges, Ashley, was the models you said weren't quite synced up at the beginning. And now what we look at severe weather, you said it could be tornadic activity, but we also have straight line winds to consider.
Right. All threats are on the table with this because we're not just tracking a cold front pushing through that typically would bring more of the straight line wind event. We have a low pressure system, so a ton of instability and convection that could lead to some rotation as well. But damaging wind gusts will be the primary threat today. We're going to talk more about it in a second. I want to kind of dissect Exact Track 4D to get you out the door today as we have several lightning strikes across lower Michigan. This is with a lifting warm front. So just instability from that heat, humidity, giving us some popcorn showers. I will circle this area between Chicago and Indianapolis. That's what's going to be the round one in the afternoon. And then we will have round two down here, which is north of St. Louis. That comes in the evening. So if you consider this kind of scattered variety round one, then we're we're talking really 3 rounds, but only 2 rounds of potentially severe weather. And those are what I just circled for you on the map right there. I want to zoom in just a little bit closer here to southeastern Michigan to show you what we have going on. And so most of that lightning is now pushed east of Detroit. So we're finally going to start to catch a little bit of a break. That's going to allow that atmosphere to re-energize as we head into the afternoon hours. And so temperature-wise right now, we are sitting well into the 70s across southeastern Michigan with that southerly flow. Hourly forecast, given that the rain does arrive in the heat of the day, our temperatures won't be much warmer than they were yesterday. Still above average, but 85 for the afternoon high with the strong to severe weather coming in 2 waves this afternoon. So west of Metro Airport is where we have the enhanced risk, and all of southeastern Michigan at least under a level 2 risk on a 5-level scale. And so we could see large hail. Flooding is definitely a possibility with heavy rain, and the tornadic activity is mentioned within both rounds. However, damaging wind gusts are the primary threat today, where those winds could reach upward of 70 miles per hour. That could create damage that is just like a tornado. And so before severe weather season arrived, I sat down with an expert at the University of Michigan to tell you why you need to take those straight line winds just as seriously as a tornadic event. When you see storms on radar, they might start in a scattered nature fueled by moisture in the environment, and sometimes those storms become linear, and when they do, they are likely severe. The backside winds can actually become stronger than the winds ahead of the storm, forcing the line to bow out. Meteorologists refer to this as a bow echo on radar, which indicates the strongest area of wind. But I want you to take a closer look at this. When an area of wind damage extends more than 250 miles paired with wind gusts along a path at or greater than 58 miles per hour, then you have a derecho. Meteorologist Lauren Casey of Climate Central explains how a warming climate is energizing our atmosphere, which in turn can lead to more extreme wind events like this.
More warmth, more moisture, more instability that allows these storms to grow stronger more quickly and also to sustain themselves for longer periods of time. In Michigan, you can see where you get sometimes derechos or a long line of very strong thunderstorms that produce those damaging winds and that continue to track for hundreds of miles and cause a lot of damage in their path.
So come with me so we can translate what you see on radar compared to what you see at the surface when a thunderstorm is rolling through. So located near the base of a thunderstorm is a shelf cloud. These are wedge-shaped and typically associated with severe winds. Now, this warmer, more humid air gets pushed above the cooler air, helping to develop the tall, ominous clouds that are associated with thunderstorms. Damaging winds occur when the storms are able to pull fast winds from the atmosphere down to the surface through a downdraft. I spoke with Professor Marsick at the University of Michigan about why wind events become more dangerous when paired with heavy rain.
That will exacerbate the situation. Maybe some trees that are older, especially, maybe their root systems aren't quite as strong, could topple over. And that's what happened 2 years ago. We had the 23rd and 24th, we had that extreme rain event and lots of flooding. And then just 24 hours, a series of storms that came through producing 70-mile-per-hour winds and really significant damage, tens of millions of dollars across southeast Michigan.
So how can you prepare? Well, of course, you want to remove dead trees on your property ahead of windstorms to reduce the risk of them falling. However, something to keep in mind when changing the landscape on your property is that enclosed trees grow tall to capture sunlight without having to deal with wind loads around them that ultimately makes them grow larger roots. But by cutting back some of those trees, the remaining trees are suddenly no longer in a closed environment and become exposed to high winds, which makes them more susceptible to damage. The best way to avoid trouble is just to make sure that these transitional tree zones are a safe distance from your home.
You know, what's interesting when you talk about those straight line winds is every time that we go to cover storm damage after the fact, right? And you said it in there that the damage can be just as bad as a tornado.
100%.
Because the National Weather Service usually isn't out by the time that the morning show is out, us reporters are out there. So we'll be walking around all morning long. I'm saying we don't know yet if this was a tornado or straight line winds.
But you've probably become a mini expert because when you're out there, you see if all of the trees or that damage is in one direction compared to snapped in different directions, which then would indicate a rotating storm. So that's one of the things that they're looking at. at when they send their survey teams out is just how that damage appears and what direction it was hit. But when it comes to straight line winds, when we're looking at radar, it's a little easier to pinpoint where the winds will be the strongest because, as I pointed out on that radar image, you start to see the line bow out. Think of a bow and arrow. And so the apex of the bow is going to have the strongest winds. And so that's where, as that line's rolling through, you know that you're going to have the potential for damaging wind gusts that could be just as damaging as tornadoes. But we're talking this afternoon a low pressure system rolling in. So it's not necessarily a distinct line. And that's creating a lot of instability across the area in which, you know, you could see a couple different rotating storms pop up across the area, and those are harder to pinpoint exactly where the rotation is going to occur.
Right,
so I do think I mean, it's tricky nonetheless, everything that you're forecasting with a complex convective system, but I think it's easier, a little easier at least, to get the, you know, straight line winds down compared to where those tornadoes are going to pop.
So in terms of preparing for a storm, is there anything we should be doing at home, getting ready for what's coming later?
Yeah, so regardless of what's on the table today, whether it would be straight line wind damage or tornadic damage, and fingers crossed we don't have either, right?
Sure,
but
right.
now is the time to, if you have one of those big patio umbrellas, take that down, you know, and maybe not even just close it, like take it out of, like if it's in the table, like take it out, lay it flat, because all of that can be, you know, projectile debris as we are looking at the evening hours. So yeah, I would say just make sure that all your patio cushions are stored, and that's, you know, softer, but like especially those umbrellas, things like that. You want to make sure that because that will create more damage. The other thing too, which I think is interesting, is when you have a tornado coming through and the difference in pressure, you want to make sure your windows are closed, and more importantly that your garage is closed too, because that could just absolutely suck in all of that air, and then you're talking about roofs coming off, things like that. So make sure that everything is just, you know, enclosed just like you would be inside your house.
Yep. Not to make light of it, but I recall seeing a lot of photos of people prepping for storms, usually in the south more often, but they'll take a lot of their patio furniture and just throw it in the pool.
Oh,
right.
That's interesting.
Well, you know,
but you don't want it flying around.
Right. I thought about it. I'm like, why is it? And, oh, okay. So that way it doesn't fly around, because usually if it's submerged, the tornado isn't going to pick it up. Hopefully not.
Exactly. But, you know, and that's what a lot of times you see, like the big trampoline, like you can't put that anywhere, but those are the ones that are mangled and in somebody else's yard, and, you know, it's easy for that to be picked up.
3 blocks away.
Right.
Here's your new trampoline. Don't jump on it.
Right.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. A new traffic system started for 8 ramps to get on I-96 in Oakland County. It just started today. Drivers will see ramp metering on ramps from Milford to Novi. MDOT says it's designed to help with traffic, and it works just like a traffic light. So guess who we brought in? DB. Darnell Blackburn. Look, he's here. So essentially what this is it's a traffic light, yellow, green, red, right at the bottom of the entrance ramp to the expressway, which is kind of counterintuitive, because that's when you're speeding up to get on, right?
Yeah, it is.
But it is what it is. And it does help, doesn't it?
It does help. It does help. I mean, think about it. If you're just a regular driver driving in that far right lane, which most drivers should try not to be in that merge lane if you can, but you see people that don't know how to merge. And so the thing is to be prepared. Be prepared, because it's at the lower part of that ramp. So when you're getting onto the entrance ramp, be prepared to possibly stop. One of the things that's been happening today is, as Shantae was reporting earlier, a lot of people just don't know what to do. And so there's going to be a big learning curve. One of the biggest things is that yellow means that it's actually off. You can proceed as you would normally merge onto the ramp.
Okay.
So
it doesn't mean get ready to stop.
It doesn't. The flashing yellow means that the metering system isn't on right now. So that means that you can merge as you would normally merge. And obviously green means to, go, and red means to stop. And so it's really going to be a huge learning curve.
It is. I remember I moved to California to take a job several years ago before moving back home. And that was one of the first things that I noticed. I went to get onto one of the expressways out there, and they had metering. It's been there for a long time. And I'm like, are the lights busted? Like, why are they just flashing at me and going up and down? And then I realized what was going on. And eventually I found out that they're very effective in handling that initial rush hour commute, whether it be going somewhere or coming back home at the end of the day. It does help a lot and stops kind of that issue, that bottleneck right at the bottom of every entrance ramp.
It does. And so, it will be useful. Again, the biggest thing is the learning curve. And so here's the other caution that we're giving people is that don't just disregard it. I mean, disrespect the red, obviously.
Right.
There are going to be people that will disregard their red. They will have patrols out that are going to be watching people enter in on this ramp. And trust me, as a former cop, we got some nice hiding spots, So you don't want to be in a position where you're like, oh, they ain't going to see me. They won't catch me. I mean, it's useful. It's really useful, particularly for people who struggle. There's some people who really struggle merging.
Sure, absolutely.
And this will be a very, very useful system to have. One of the other issues or challenges, though, is that there may be, there's multiple lanes sometimes in these actual entrance ramps.
Right.
And so
the video we have there is two lanes with two signals on either side.
Exactly.
Right, and they bounce back and forth.
Bounce back and forth. And so, just pay attention. I mean, it will be very useful in the long run. It reduces accidents. It reduces, people being in positions where they're getting cut off. And so, but it's going to be a challenge for those people who are new to it. And again, one of the biggest things is that flashing yellow. You can go.
Let's go. Yeah. This might be more of a question for MDOT, but I know you talk to them all the time. Are they going to be using this all day long, or is it going to be just at those peak hours?
From what I understand, it's going to be all day.
Okay.
So again, the flashing yellow is
that might be on the off-peak hours.
Yeah, that may be during the offbeat hours where there's not high traffic volumes. But from what I understand, don't quote me on that definitely, but that's what I gathered earlier.
Understood. Okay. Well, I'm getting the feeling this is going to be kind of a pilot for MDOT to see how it goes, and then we'll probably see more and more of these popping up.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. And I mean, they're starting in Oakland County out, but they could be coming to the metro area really soon, and that would be that's going to be an interesting thing. I think it'll be helpful, particularly if those smaller freeways like the Lodge. I mean, also maybe a long time before they get to that, and that the Lodge is not necessarily interstate, so we'll see. I mean, but for somewhere like if you ever merged on the Lodge at Wyoming, man, it's
you know what they might help with? Wrong way drivers.
Yeah, what also helps is to stop drinking.
That's
driving with those guys too.
If you've had that much to drink, maybe you wouldn't even notice the traffic signal. All right, Darnell, thanks, man. Appreciate you. Okay, let's take a live look at the stock futures board this morning. Investors will be keeping a close watch as tensions in Israel and Iran continue to rise, and a major decision coming from the Fed this afternoon. Welcome back, everybody. Let's get to your morning headlines. More Michigan lawmakers have been found on a so-called hit list made by the man accused of shooting 2 Minnesota lawmakers. That list named Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and Representatives Debbie Dingell, Shree Tanadar, Haley Stevens, Rashida Tlaib, and Hillary Schulten. Some lawmakers have canceled or delayed public events. Others, like Debbie Dingell, says she will not stop working.
I'm used to dissent. I'm used to protests and people being strong and passionate. This one was very scary. People died. People died.
We didn't know what these different notebooks meant, and much of that is still coming to light. We're not going to allow this to deter us ultimately in doing this work.
We also heard from Representative Tanadar. He said he does not feel in danger, but his staff is taking precautions. Federal authorities say the suspect, Vance Bolter, had a list of 45 elected officials. Investigators are still trying to figure out a motive, though, but he is facing federal murder and stalking charges. It has been 6 days of growing conflict between Israel and Iran. Now President Trump is trying to decide on how involved the U.S. should get. The president is considering using U.S. military to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. He's also pushing for Iran to cease fire and warning he knows where Iran's leader is hiding. President Trump also warning more U.S. military might be sent to the Middle East. Now, Wall Street is waiting for the Federal Reserve's decision on interest rates this afternoon. The Fed is expected to leave its key rate unchanged for now. The focus will be on what Fed Chairman Jerome Powell says about future rate cuts, inflation, and tariffs. Ahead of that, stock futures this morning we're showing a gain right now at the open. Right now, yesterday, the Dow was down nearly 300 points. The Nasdaq lost 180. The S&P fell 500 points. A forewarned weather alert issued this afternoon and tonight. Ashley is going to come back with some up-to-the-minute information on the timing of 2 rounds of storms. The very latest as you're looking live at downtown Detroit. Thanks to our friends in Windsor. Forewarned weather when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. 8:51 here on your Wednesday morning. A live look over in DeWitt where you can see some of that rain coming. Well, it was there. Now it's us. Hi, everybody.
That was just gross looking.
We don't want to see it anymore. We said Ashley's much better looking. We'll take a look.
Oh, thanks, Nick. I paid him to say that.
Okay, so this storms, I should say, right?
Plural,
Two of
yeah.
them, right? Sounds like the first round not as bad as the second.
Right, it has the possibility, but really the second round will be more robust.
Okay.
But the interesting part about what we'll call thermodynamics with weather is sometimes round one can suck the energy out of the atmosphere, and round two ends up being a bust. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
So there are just a lot of factors into how this is going to pan out, and that's why it hasn't been like one of those, lock it in kind of forecasts.
I don't know how you do this because it seems like there's 16,000 factors involved. They can all change at the same time.
I know, and then not everybody's happy because they hear one part of the forecast,
Right.
and it's not exactly how
Right.
that part is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world. Send all your complaints to Nick Monticelli instead of Ashley Ferris.
Nick M at Yahoo.
Right, we'll give a fake email
Sure.
address. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But
There probably is somebody's real email address.
right. Here's a look at Exact Track 4D, which, okay, so here's the good news, bad news. You see that we're starting to catch a break from those scattered showers. We're getting a little break and sun might start to peek out. And so that's nice if you're wanting to get outside and do some of the activities. But that sun, the heat, energizes the atmosphere. So that could allow for those storms, which will be midday, to be a little stronger. But as we zoom in a little closer, I do want to do some kind of street level mapping for you. And you can see just towards Woodhaven is where we do have that heavier pocket of rain close to the I-275 corridor. So we will have that passing little cell that's left. But otherwise, we do have a forewarned weather alert for this afternoon and evening because of those two rounds that could bring strong to severe storms. So you might say, well, wasn't this round one? Well, okay, so technically speaking, maybe 3 rounds, but the first round we didn't expect to be severe. We expect 2 potentially severe rounds in the later part of the day. And so this is what's on the table. Off west of Metro Airport, that area you see shaded in orange, that's a level 3 on a 5-level scale, enhanced risk for severe weather. The yellow's a level 2, the tip of the thumb there, marginal green, level 1. So all of us have the chance of seeing severe wind gusts, upward of 70 miles per hour. So those would be damaging wind gusts, large hail, flooding with some heavy downpours, and a couple isolated tornadoes can't be ruled out. And so round 1 will be just after the lunch hour likely. And then you get just this little break before wave 2 comes in into the evening. And so hail sizes, let's talk more about that because I've been speaking of the possibility of large hail that could exceed 1 inch in diameter. So putting that in perspective for you, 1 inch would be comparable to about 1/4. And if it's upward of 1 inch, well, that next size would likely be closer to ping pong size hail, ping pong ball size hail. So that's possible. Not a guarantee, but it's possible. Satellite and radar, warm front lifting, that was the mechanism that created those scattered showers we dealt with this morning. But the low down to the southwest, that's going to be the more robust part of the system for round 2 this evening. So as we tilt the radar, get under the clouds, well, we will have some of that lightning to still contend with as you see a lot of that pushing up to the northeast. So if you're joining us closer to port here on the thumb, you probably hear a few rumbles of thunder, but check out that sun starting to peek through the clouds in downtown Detroit. That's going to warm us up. So we're in the 70s right now, but because the rain arrives in the peak heat of the day, mid-afternoon, temperatures will be similar to yesterday, mid-80s. But we'll see some strong to severe storms. So here's a look at that hour by hour. I think round 1 rather, it will be closer to about 2 o'clock as that rolls through. And then that round 2 chasing behind it pretty quickly. So 6 o'clock onward, now we're talking about those storms pushing through with that low pressure. And then we will have even more of those heavy downpours around 10, 11 o'clock. So I think the severe threat lifts closer to midnight, but we'll have some remnant rain on the back edge of that low that fills in Thursday morning. And then by Thursday afternoon, we should be drying out. And that starts a dry stretch, a sunny, hot stretch going into the weekend. But that rainfall forecast, the farther north you go, the more rain we pick up. So about 1 to 3 inches will be the widespread totals. Dome of heat builds in this weekend, and that's going to take us into the first half of next week. So what am I talking number-wise? Well, mid-90s, and that's not even factoring in the humidity. So 90s Saturday, mid-90s Sunday into early next week with those heat indices feeling like it could possibly be above 100. And so for folks that have been itching for the warmer weather, there you go, but that might even be a little too warm for some, especially if you're going to be at the Ford fireworks on Monday. We're not dodging the rain, but you're going to have to find a way to stay cool in the sun and with those heat indices around 100.
Yeah, those kind of temperatures, that's the weather where you want to check in on your family, your neighbors, anyone elderly.
Right, especially those without air conditioning.
evening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hit the mall, hit the movie theater, find the library, find places where you can get a break from the heat.
And if not, buy a whole lot of fans.
You're right.
Lots and lots of fans. Yes. Okay, Ashley, thank you. So much more coming up here in our next hour of news ahead at 9 o'clock. Ashley, how do you feel about kiwi?
I love kiwi.
Do you?
I do.
Do you sleep good?
Oh, I don't know. I don't eat it enough to know if it makes me
might
sleep
be your
better.
problem.
Oh,
right?
Okay. It has nothing to do with a 1:30 alarm clock in the morning?
No, that's not it. No, it's the kiwi.
Okay.
Or not taping your mouth closed.
Well, no, I'm a mouth breather, so I might suffocate if you do that.
Well, don't do that then. Yeah, could these things actually help you get a good night's sleep? Who knows? The expert joins us to talk about, because she knows, the sleep trends you're seeing on social media, do they work or do they not? Karen Drew is also going to join us with the latest on her investigation into the Detroit Fire Department. Plus, we're on top of the weather. Ashley's going to come back as you're looking live in downtown Detroit right now. It doesn't look bad now, but it's going to look different in a few hours.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Good morning, everybody. Rain is already falling in parts of Metro Detroit right now after a forewarned weather alert has been declared. 2 rounds of storms expected, one this afternoon and one is happening tonight. The greater risk includes Washtenaw County, Western Wayne, Livingston, Monroe, and Lenoir counties as we look live in Ann Arbor right now. You can see the big house there. Some clouds already starting to form. And we are not the only ones seeing wet weather right now. They are seeing thunderstorms right now as you're looking live at the White House. A rainy start to our Wednesday morning out there. Good morning, everybody. It is 9 a.m. Welcome to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. So much to cover here today. Forewarned meteorologist Ashley Barris will be joining us in just a moment. But we do want to talk about social media trends and sleep. Eating kiwi before bed, taping your mouth shut. Does any of that really help you get better rest? An expert's going to be joining us live here in just a few moments. Plus, we're going to watch the stock market. The Federal Reserve set to meet today to decide whether to lower interest rates. Here's a live look at the futures board. We're going to bring you live to the start of trading when that happens in about 29 minutes, half an hour from now. Okay, let's talk our headline of the day, and that is weather. Ashley has been hard at work for days, and especially over the past couple hours, tracking this storm. This could be fairly impactful twice.
That's right. We have a pretty complex system. And so breaking it down first, we've had a few pockets of heavy downpours and some lightning. That has to do with the warm front. So I'm just going to kind of draw this line, that warm front that's lifting across the region. But I will circle this area. This is going to be what will potentially be the first round of severe weather as that's tracking towards Detroit. The next round after that, all the way down just north of St. Louis and the western edge of Illinois, that comes with a low pressure system. And that strong low will be a little more robust as we go into the evening hours. But both this round towards Fort Wayne and the one that's even farther southwest of that brings the potential for some severe weather. We'll take a closer look at what's right across southeastern Michigan is the heavy rain that we've been tracking pushing east. And so we do have a drier slot that'll allow the atmosphere to re-energize if we get a few breaks in the clouds and some of that sunshine heating things up. And so we do anticipate some strong storms to develop. Let's talk about those severe threats for you, because we have an enhanced level 3 on a 5-level scale risk of severe storms from Metro Airport off to the west. So western Wayne, Washtenaw, Livingston, Monroe, and Lenawee counties. Rest of southeastern Michigan under that slight level 2 risk. Everything's on the table. So wind gusts upward of 70 miles per hour. We could also see some large hail over an inch in diameter, and we could also have some flooding, given that we could pick up about 1 to 3 inches of rainfall over the next 24 to 36 hours. And tornadoes remain possible. So we're going to break down the timeline of both of those rounds coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Ashley, of course, weather updates throughout the entire hour that we're left here on Local 4 Live. Let's take a live look now at Tel Aviv, where Israeli officials are trying to stop Iran from making nuclear weapons. We have just learned Israel struck the headquarters of Iran's defense ministry. Iran's supreme leader says the country will not surrender and warns irreparable damage if the U.S. gets involved. Iranian officials said earlier Wednesday that U.S. intervention would risk all-out war. Now, here at home, you might notice traffic lights on ramps to I-96 in Oakland County. This is part of a new plan starting today to try to reduce crashes by metering the entrance ramps. When approaching an active ramp meter, drivers will need to form 2 lanes on the ramp, stop at the white line, and then wait their turn for a green light at the meter to proceed onto the freeway. When flashing yellow, drivers can merge just normally without stopping there. A Detroit woman charged with allegedly firing shots at a tow truck driver is due in court. Police say Shaquanda Tankersley fired a handgun multiple times at the driver while he attempted to repossess her car last Thursday. Officers nearby saw the shooting and responded by returning fire, hitting Tankersley. She went to a hospital and is okay. The tow truck driver and officers involved were not hurt. She is charged with assaults with intent to murder and felony firearm. Police over in Monroe County are looking for some answers for what led up to the death of 2 teens found on a rural road. This is some video from the scene there over in Sky 4, where police found their bodies inside of a car yesterday morning. This is Rainsville Township on Heiss Road. The teens, a boy and a girl, appeared to have been shot. Police have not released their names. Detroit police are on the hunt for a suspect involved in what they are calling a heinous act. Yesterday, a SWAT team raided a home on Cerrone Street near Van Dyke. The suspect wasn't there. Police haven't given many details, only that it relates to injuries sustained by 2 people at a different location. If you know anything about this, which might be challenging because we don't know much, please reach out to police. Well, you may have seen a trend popping around your feed online, the trend that has been going viral called sleep maxing. It's designed to help sleep quality and quantity by getting into certain beauty routines or consuming certain supplements and foods. A recent study from CNN shows some of the most effective sleeping habits include sleeping in a cool, dark, and quiet room with the ideal temperature 60 to 67 degrees. Limiting screen time and bright light exposure before bed is also great. Avoiding alcohol and caffeine in the hours leading up to sleep, that's a good one. And maintaining a regular and consistent sleep schedule. Good luck with that one. Many people have taken to social media to share their sleep maxing hacks. Many of those include some claims that hacks like eating kiwis, sleep trapping apps, red light exposure, or even taping your mouth shut. I know it's a lot to navigate. You're probably wondering, does this work? Does it not work? Joining us more to talk about sleep maxing right now and some of the do's and don'ts, Dr. Anita Shelgakar is with us. She's the director of the Sleep Medicine Fellowship and clinical professor of neurology at U of M Ann Arbor. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. These hacks, none of it sounds real to me. Do any of these things work?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me to discuss this really fascinating topic. You know, it's great that people are prioritizing their sleep, and so we're really excited about that. But I agree with you that a lot of the trends out there right now aren't necessarily grounded in scientific backing.
So that said, is there anything that actually does work? Like, explain why someone might think taping their mouth shut could help, or is there nothing behind it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So mouth taping, the intent there is to try to really emphasize nasal breathing and breathing through the nasal passages, but that can be problematic for someone that may have some obstruction or difficulty breathing through their nose in the setting of, you know, a deviated nasal septum or seasonal allergies like many of us have here in Michigan. So if someone has a difficult time breathing through their nose, then taking away the option for mouth breathing can be problematic and may even lead to a feeling of not getting enough air.
Okay, Doc, we're having some audio volume issues. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get back to you. We're to see if we can fix this right after this. All right, welcome back. Some technical difficulties have been resolved. Doctor, thank you again for joining us here talking about sleep maxing. So when you see trends like this happening on TikTok, do you cringe or do you get somewhat excited because at least people are trying something?
Yeah, I look for the silver lining in the whole thing. I'm excited when people are thinking about their sleep, prioritizing their sleep, and trying to make sleep optimization part of a healthy lifestyle. So I think those are all wins. We just want to make sure that people use safe approaches to prioritizing their sleep.
Okay, so you said safe there. Are any of these hacks, can they be dangerous? Can they have a negative effect?
Well, I think there's some nuance for person by person determination of what works well. So when you talk about things like supplements, for example, we do consider what other medications is somebody taking, and could there be interactions between a supplement and a prescription medication. So that's where we recommend talking to a healthcare provider before starting supplements. Even though the intent is good of getting better sleep, we want to make sure, again, that that's done safely.
So what's this conversation about kiwi? What's happening here?
Yeah, so kiwi's rich in antioxidants and serotonin, and again, those could be good things. We also recommend, if someone's going to do a major overhaul to their dietary intake, to again make sure that they are getting proper nutrition, and so to do that with guidance. So it could be part of a healthy lifestyle overall, but probably not enough, at least based on the data that we have right now, to be the be-all, end-all for improving sleep.
So it sounds like some of these hacks, I'll put that in air quotes, could be helpful, but you probably should be talking to a professional before you do anything, especially long term.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Again, we want to make sure that with good intentions that people pursue options that are safe for them and make sense in the context of their entire medical history and their current state in terms of the other factors that may be influencing their sleep. So we do recommend a lot of the things that you called out at the start of this segment in terms of keeping a consistent schedule in terms of bedtime and wake up time, keeping the sleeping environment cool, dark, and quiet, and having a wind down routine to help facilitate falling asleep at the time you want to.
I've also read that using a weighted blanket can make you feel like you're being cuddled, and it actually does something chemically to you.
Yeah, it's been studied in specific patient populations, not necessarily across the board, but in those specific studies, there have been some benefits shown. So I have anecdotally some patients who like it. Some people find it to be too heavy and, a little problematic or uncomfortable.
I feel trapped in bed.
Yes, exactly. So again, case by case, maybe something to consider.
Okay, so give me your number one or number two ultimate hacks, things that you know are safe and definitely work.
The tried and true are consistency. Our brains love consistency. So having a consistent bedtime and wake up time, which in our society and with all the things that we do, it can be really, really difficult. Yeah. But trying to prioritize that schedule can be the most effective hack to do. And then also having a dedicated wind down routine where you're slowly getting into the process of bedtime and kind of winding your brain down and getting ready for sleep. Those are two things that you can take with you wherever you go when you're traveling or otherwise, and can really be helpful with getting the amount of restorative sleep that you want.
So winding your brain down is a thing then? And I ask that in all seriousness, because even myself, if I've had a rough day at work or just been a long day, I won't put any music on when I'm driving home from work. I won't take any phone calls. I want to try to calm and shut the brain down. Is that real, or did I make that up?
No, absolutely. And for different people, those approaches are different. Some people might find music to be part of that wind down process. Some people might find silence or going for a walk or reading a book, so finding what works for you at any given time. But absolutely, kind of settling our thoughts, getting ready for bed, kind of being in a more relaxed and calm state can definitely help with falling asleep when we want to.
That special rainmaker kind of noise, the white noise. All right. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
That works well.
Thanks for going in some of these myths and the hacks, because it sounds like some of them are probably not a safe thing to do, especially taping your mouth closed. Don't do that.
Well, happy to talk about healthy sleep anytime. Thanks so much for having me.
Take care. All right, we are looking live at the Big House right now in Ann Arbor. According to a new report from U.S. News and World, 4 Michigan universities are making the list as some of the top in the world. The highest-ranked Michigan college is U of M, coming in at 21st. Now a live look over in East Lansing, because MSU on the list as well at 133rd. Wayne State and Michigan Tech also made the top 1,000 universities across the globe. At the very top of that list is Harvard. And I can tell you there is somebody over at the Green Wall who is very, very happy with that ranking.
Go Blue. Proud Michigan grad standing right here. But yeah, that's really great that our state boasts so many great universities. I mean, that's the key. You don't have to go out of state to get a great education here. Let's dive into the radar right now. I'm standing over at our weather wall because I want to bring you up to speed on what we're tracking, especially with an active radar this morning. So let me give you the specifics here. We have round 1 of rain coming through, but that's not round 1 of severe weather. So if you say, oh, I just got a light passing shower, what are you talking about, Ashley? The severe stuff comes this afternoon. So that's why I've been saying round 1 and 2 in the afternoon, because this was kind of just a little wet precursor to everything. So here's Exact Track 40. A few lightning strikes out there where you might hear a rumble of thunder, but we'll zoom in to give you a little more street level mapping at this hour, where we have one pocket of some heavy rain in southeast Michigan, and that's for the folks downriver. So Southgate, Riverview, getting some of that heavy rain, especially for those that'll be driving along Dix-Toledo Highway. And so that heavy rain stretching there and the I-75 corridor. And so if you're just south of Taylor on Allen Road, that's where you're going to encounter maybe a little bit of quick ponding before we dry things out. Now, we still have quite a bit of activity farther north. So from Sandusky towards Midland, west of Saginaw, stretching off towards Big Rapids, north of Lansing, some heavy rain and lightning. And so this is all with a warm front lifting across the area, just bringing instability. So that warm front kind of just trickling so slowly to the east-northeast. Now, that low that is starting to cross into western Illinois, so pushing out of Kansas City, that's more potent. That brings us the more severe weather. But we've had some stronger storms develop from Chicago to Indianapolis. Not that long ago, there was a severe thunderstorm warning down by Indy. So I think that'll be round 1 that potentially could bring some severe weather. As we dive under the clouds here with radar, we have all that lightning in Indiana, but we have a ton that's off towards the northern part of lower Michigan. Cloud cover here, but that sun's trying to break through, which will energize the atmosphere with the heat. So 77 degrees right now in Detroit, and we're not even at 9:30 in the morning. 75 in Ann Arbor, 76 in Pontiac, 77 in Monroe. We have a west-southwesterly wind light right now, around 5 miles per hour, but these strong to severe storms that potentially develop would pack a punch with some strong wind gusts. So 85 for the afternoon high today, with the active weather arriving in the heat of the day. But we will have a forewarned weather alert in effect this afternoon and evening. We've issued it prior to the potential for those strong to severe thunderstorms. So round 1 will be right around the lunch hour going into the early afternoon, and then a little window where we will have a break, and then we get the stronger stuff this evening after about 6 o'clock. Enhanced risk along western Wayne County off towards Washtenaw, Livingston, Monroe, and Lenawee County. That's a level 3. And then level 2 in yellow. All threats on the table today. Wind gusts upward of 70 miles per hour would be considered damaging wind gusts. And those could be straight line winds, though I'm not ruling out rotating storms as well. Over an inch in diameter hail, that will be a possibility with the ingredients that we have today, and flooding certainly a possibility with 1 to 3 inches of rainfall expected. But if you do see some hail that reaches an inch in diameter, that would be equivalent to about a quarter, upward of that, probably ping pong size hail. And so let's time out how this pans out. Around 2 o'clock this afternoon, I think that's when you start to see that round 1 pushing through, and then round 2 is quickly chasing it. So 6 o'clock onward, then we have those storms that'll roll throughout the evening and sticking with us into the sunset. So we'll have rain through the overnight, but severe threat will be done after midnight, and we have some light rain that occurs early tomorrow before we dry things out Thursday afternoon through the weekend. Rainfall forecast, we'll see the greater amounts up into the thumb region over the next 24 to 36 hours. And then the next weather maker is hot. We are talking temperatures rising into the mid-90s by the time we get to Sunday and beyond. And that doesn't even take into account the heat indices that will be triple digits. So we're pairing it with sunshine. And if you're heading out to the Ford fireworks on Monday, here is an early warning for you. You want to make sure you stay hydrated because it is going to be toasty. Grab the umbrella, not to dodge the rain, but definitely to shade you from the sun, and try to have some kind of fan or mister to keep you cool, because that's dangerous heat, Nick.
Absolutely. And lots of water. Lots of water. Ashley, thank you so much. Still ahead, we're going to keep an eye on the boards right now. We're going to check back here at 9:30 to see how the decision from the Federal Reserve could impact the cost of auto loans, mortgages, and the stock market when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. And some national headlines. A high-dollar heist over in Colorado earlier this month, now being shared by police. This is the back of a shipping truck that was a few thousand Nintendo Switch 2 consoles short. Each gaming console is worth about $500. Police aren't sure how or when the truck was broken into during the shipment. Experts say these devices each have a serial number that police and Nintendo can track. Investigators say anybody with a stolen console should be able to be tracked down. President Trump is giving TikTok another 90-day extension, delaying the enforcement of the sale or ban law. The law, which took effect in January, requires the app to be banned in the U.S. unless it is sold by their China-based parent company. The order will give TikTok 3 more months to comply. Experts say the app is becoming a bargaining chip in the ongoing U.S.-China trade negotiations. For the first time, streaming services are outpacing traditional TV viewing. Now, it's no surprise here, right? And no bias, of course, but streams, kind of the coolest, right? Not just saying that because you're streaming us right now. It's the truth. A new report from Nielsen shows streaming accounted for 44.8% of all TV viewership last month. Cable and broadcast together had 44.2%. Streaming usage, though, is only expected to keep rising. Over the last 4 years, streaming viewership spiked by 71%. It's graduation season, and the commencement ceremonies can sometimes be long and a bit boring, but who to make it better and more tolerable than Michael Scott himself? Northwestern University of Chicago's class of 2025 was in for a treat and a surprise. Steve Carell surprised the class as their commencement speaker. The actor and comedian sprinkled his address with jokes and even paused for a dance break halfway through the speech. Carell went on to remind the graduates to, quote, just dance sometimes. I love it. Love it all. No information from Ashley on the timing of today's storms. We're watching those dance all on top of us all morning long. And then Karen Drew is going to join us with her investigation involving the Detroit Fire Department. Keep it right here on Local 4 Plus.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Rain moving across Metro Detroit on this hot and humid Wednesday morning. Not everybody is seeing it right now, but this is just the beginning. Our team of meteorologists has issued a forewarned weather alert starting this afternoon for the potential of storms that could turn severe. In fact, parts of the east side are seeing rain right now as we look live at Mount Clemens, but the more serious storms arrive this afternoon. And then again, tonight you're looking live right now in Mount Clemens, a cloudy start to your Wednesday morning, I should say. Also, let's look at Wichita, Kansas. They've already dealt with some severe weather yesterday. A 101-mile wind gust was reported there. Thousands are without power, and a flood warning is still in effect. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you for watching us. Karen Drew, she just sat down. She's over. You can't see her yet, but she's here. A brand new investigation. But first, we have to talk about the weather. Ashley is all the way over there talking about these severe storms rolling through. We will get to Ashley in just a moment. But as we said, Karen Drew is here, so why not talk to Karen? She sat down. She said, I am ready to go.
I'm ready to rock it.
Okay, so this Detroit Fire Department thing, we've got some firefighters who, there's a difference of legal limit of intoxication and then zero tolerance because obviously you can't be drinking on the job. I'm not saying that's what they were doing, right? But
you could be drinking beforehand.
Exactly.
Right, they have long shifts.
Okay, so what have you found?
Well, there's a lot. So we're going to tackle that because I've got about 5 different issues within the Detroit Fire Department. And all of this is stuff that, you know, insiders are telling me. And they're hardworking firefighters who respect their job, respect their time, and want to keep people safe. So when they come to me with this, it's just like, we just want to make this better. So it's better for the public. So yes, we reported on that crash last week. You did. So there was a crash yesterday morning. We reported on that. We still don't know who's at fault. That's over there. And then we have the crash last week. And when I got the tip on that, they said, okay, we were going to run alcohol test. And then the city said, we're going to follow up on that. And the city didn't share with us the results until my tipster told me. And so I tracked down the commissioner. He was willing to talk, which is nice. We appreciate that. And we said, yeah, you had this crash last week, and what happened? And he did confirm that the driver of the truck did have alcohol in his system. They have a zero tolerance. What's important about this, any crash is worrisome. This crash, a firefighter was injured and a civilian.
Sure.
And when it comes down to that, your job is to be a rescue person,
right,
to be a hero, and you're driving this huge truck with alcohol in your system.
Right, that could be horrific. In fact, we've got your entire story we can watch right now.
We've got a crash, and a civilian's injured. You said you were going to do a test of the driver, comes back and fails the alcohol test.
That's correct.
What's your reaction to that?
Oh, I'm very upset at that. However, I would say that his alcohol content came below the legal limit, but there's a zero tolerance on the Detroit Fire Department. We hold our members at a higher standard, and so any alcohol at all in your system, you will be discharged.
And look at this. This was the scene this morning. Another crash involving a fire truck on Houston and Whittier. We're still waiting to find out who's at fault on that one. Then, later today, an insider tips me off, and the commissioner confirms there has been at least 2 cases involving members of Detroit Fire getting caught defrauding the system, collecting money they did not earn. One was fired, the other still on the job tonight.
Some of the people that are bringing their concerns to me, they are concerned that there is an abuse of the system. There is fraud. What is being done right now to stop this? Because it's a problem.
So I would tell you what was done a year ago. So I brought in a payroll manager, and she's excellent, and she runs audits every payroll.
Your system's catching them, but it's not preventing them.
It will prevent for anyone in the future. Yes, it will definitely will prevent. I'm very confident.
You said you'll make a decision in the next 7 days. Will you inform us of that decision and send us a comment?
I'm quite sure you guys will hear it somehow, but yes.
But I would like to hear your comment on what that decision is and whatever your decision is.
Okay. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Okay, so where do we stand then?
Okay, so when I said make a decision, that is about the individual that is accused of this fraud, that particular individual. Lieutenant, I shared, Detroit Police Internal Affairs did an investigation. They found substantial evidence to show that this fraud has occurred, and they have a monetary gain of getting paid for time that wasn't worked. And when we talk about that, that's taxpayer dollars.
Right.
So this memo from Internal Affairs came out June 4th.
Okay.
So I said to the commissioner, this memo from Internal Affairs said this person is, has the evidence for fraud. What are we doing? And he explained to me that this person had experience and knowledge in the arson unit, and he wants to make sure that all these cases are handed down to the right people and everything's put in order. That's his story. The firefighters are like, if Internal Affairs said that you illegally took money, then we should take some action. So I appreciated the commissioner saying that he was committed to making a decision, hopefully within the next 7 days, saying he will share that information with us. So that's the fraud. Now, meantime, did confirm there was another person a year earlier.
Right.
So I give them credit for bringing this person in to do the audits, but it's still going on.
Right. And it's to your point, or to your credit, you said, and you kind of called them out there saying, well, yeah, you might be able to catch them after the fact, but how do you stop this from happening?
And that's what we need to do. So they did say they were bringing in a system where they're going to use their badges almost for a check-in. So I start my shift here. They didn't really give many details on what the system was before, but clearly the system before wasn't working. And as we say, if 2 people are caught and busted, they weren't the only 2 people,
right.
And when it comes down to it, it's our money.
Yes.
That could be used for more fire trucks, for equipment for the fireboat that hasn't been working.
For more training, as you mentioned earlier, right?
Well, that was what they said. So I was saying, okay, you got 2 crashes in 2 weeks. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday, when I was doing my story, I got a text with photos. Another crash had occurred. Mm-hmm. So I can't even keep up with these crashes. So what's going on? The people that are working in the department tell me that they need more training. So they do a virtual training, and they also do something on the street. But from what I'm hearing, and this is just, that they just feel like they're younger drivers, they need more experience. Yeah. The one that got into the crash last week was, I want to say, less than 3 months driving the truck. So if this is an issue, let's take a closer look at it. So when I did talk with Mr. Sims, he said, okay, if they want more training, we'll do more training. So I said, okay. let's see what happens.
Show me the documents. That's happening.
Yeah,
Right.
so we need more training.
What I love about this, too, is that it's firefighters coming to you because they don't want a shadow cast across the entire department.
They take pride in their job.
Of course. Right.
Right?
Right.
And, you know, I've been in this community reporting for 27 years. I've built my reputation on you know, caring about those individuals and reporting the facts. And sometimes I think people think like, oh, she's just yelling at the fire department. You know what I mean?
We're asking questions.
But it's like, no, I've been here long enough where these firefighters and these insiders know they can trust me to bring up their concerns. And it's not a us versus them. It's like, let's make the system better.
Right. It's
Clearly,
how can we help?
Yeah, we need better training. And obviously we need a better system to keep track of the dollars.
Right,
So,
because let's be honest, sometimes change doesn't happen until things are brought to light.
and that's true.
Right.
So, and I will tell you, I got 3 tips from my story yesterday. So there's more to report.
There's more, too.
I'll stay on top of it.
All right, well, you keep
know.
coming back in here then.
It's nice to see you in the morning here.
We're just hanging out.
How's it going?
We're calling this Nick's Nook.
Nick's, oh, I like that. Can we make a little t-shirt?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm all into t-shirts.
All right, Karen, thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Okay, when we come back, more about the forecast. Actually, we're going to do it right now. Ashley is here looking at these storms, 2 potential, and one's only a couple hours away at this point.
That's right. I mean, you're starting to see that creep into the southwestern portion of lower Michigan. So let me first point out the line of lightning strikes we have up here. This is all part of a warm front. So that's what brought the instability with the scattered showers this morning. Then we have round 1 of severe potential. That's starting to cross the state line, but down in the southwestern portion of the state. So we're not that far out from that. Round 2 would be this system that we're keeping a close eye on north of St. Louis and the western edge of Illinois. That comes with a low pressure system, so that potentially brings more of the robust system that we're taking a closer look at. I do want to zoom in closer to what we have, though, for that round 1 to show you how that's just trickling north of the state line, so well south of Kalamazoo and just east of South Bend. And so for folks that are maybe traveling in that direction for today, you'll probably encounter some of that within the next couple of hours, but it certainly will be making its way here to southeast Michigan as it has that northeasterly motion. So you're going to see the direction that moves in. All right, so let's go ahead and clear that out for you and talk about what's on tap as we go in the rest of the day. First, starting off with temperatures, because we are on the warm side. And as we have this drier slot, the atmosphere's re-energizing, so we're already in the mid to upper 70s across the area. It's not even 10 o'clock yet. So hourly forecasts will be rising in the mid 80s. You would think they would be even warmer than that given the jump start we've had, but the rain arrives in the heat of the day, so that will cool us off a hair. But strong to severe storms on tap. And what exactly are we anticipating? Well, we have the 2 rounds. One will be just after the lunch hour in the early afternoon. Second round into the evening. All threats are on the table, especially those damaging wind gusts, and the bigger threat will be west of Metro Airport for today. We're going to dive into the details and further coming up in a few minutes.
Okay, Ashley, thank you very much. Trading is officially underway with the stock market opening just a few moments ago. Here is a look at where things stand to start your Wednesday morning. You can see we are currently up. Not much, but it's a start here. The Federal Reserve Board is actually meeting today to decide whether or not to change interest rates. That's a decision that could impact the cost of auto loans, mortgages more, and, of course, the stock market. The board is weighing tariff deadlines, trade agreements, but the biggest one right now, the conflict between Iran and Israel.
Amid uncertainty about Mideast oil and the cost of tariffs, the Federal Reserve is set to announce interest rates today. Many analysts expect the board to hold rates steady. Some say the good news is
the hard data are showing that the U.S. economy is doing very well and inflation is very contained.
But experts say that's unlikely to override the Fed's concerns.
They are also anxious about what's happening to inflation because of not just tariffs, but also because of potentially the oil spike that could come about if the oil production facilities in Iran were to be disrupted.
The price of oil is up sharply due to the conflict between Iran and Israel. Some domestic energy infrastructure in those countries is damaged. Experts say regional export facilities are also at risk.
If you have any type of attack on a facility in this environment, prices could go significantly higher. If you had real action in the Straits of Hormuz, that's back to triple digits.
Meanwhile, the pause on many so-called reciprocal tariffs is set to end July 9th. President Donald Trump says countries can avoid that by striking trade deals. He's back from the G7 summit with a signed UK agreement, but without announcing deals involving Japan, the EU, or Canada.
Watching closely for inflation to hit both markets.
Well, President Trump has been urging the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to lower interest rates after a new employment report showed job creation slowed in May. Keeping the rate unchanged would likely signal caution from the Fed as it waits to see how the president's economic policies are going to play out. Today's severe weather threat continues to be our headline all day today. The chance of heavy rain, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and more. Ashley Barrissey got a chance to see what it's actually like to deal with that kind of wind. She went to the wind tunnel at the University of Michigan. She's going to show you what that is like next. All right, so we've been talking all morning long about the storms that are about to hit Metro Detroit, and Ashley is over at the Green Wall, the Chroma Wall, talking about not just the storms, but the straight line winds that could be just as damaging as tornadoes.
Absolutely. In fact, more of the severe events that we have across southeastern Michigan happen to produce straight line winds as opposed to tornadoes, though we had a very active start to spring when it comes to tornadoes. In fact, we're in that top 10, I believe, as far as for the year so far, exceeding what our average is. And so we have both threats on the table today. We're going to dive into that a little deeper in just a moment. But let's start with Exact Track 40, where we do have improvement across the board. Now, it's all in how you look at it. So the glass half full, you're like, oh, great, we're drying things out. We have a window to get outside today. Glass half empty would be the fact that the drier slot we have, if clouds break, giving us some sun, that's going to re-energize the atmosphere, allowing for the storms later this afternoon to become severe. So that's kind of just however you slice it. But as we look at Exact Track 40, a little rain here right around the city of Detroit, and that's pushing east. And so we will dry out briefly before we get the next couple of rounds. And so warm front lifting across lower Michigan, that created the instability with those scattered showers this morning. But you see what's just pushing out of the Chicago area, really towards Granger, Indiana, and now crossing the state line. That would be the potential for round one. Now, that could reach severe limits. The better chance for the severe weather will come with the low pressure system down to the southwest. That's pushing out of Kansas City, and that has more moisture with it. So this will be the afternoon event, evening event that we're looking at on radar. And we're trying to, that sun trying hard to peek through those clouds right now. It is a bright look at downtown Detroit. 77 in the city, 75 in Ann Arbor. 76 in Pontiac, 79 in Monroe in your forecast planner. So we have the strong to severe storms in two waves this afternoon. And given that it comes in the peak heat of the day, well, that will keep those temperatures in the mid 80s this afternoon, which means we're still above average, but similar to yesterday. So even that jump start in the temps won't give us necessarily a bigger lead come this afternoon. Now, forewarned weather alert has been issued ahead of the potential this afternoon and evening. And so we do have one that will go into effect this afternoon, as we will have possibly those 2 rounds. And so enhanced level 3 risk for severe weather for western Wayne County, Monroe, Washtenaw, Livingston, Lenawee counties today. Slight level 2 risk in yellow that you see here across the rest of southeastern Michigan. What does that mean? Well, we could see wind gusts exceeding 70 miles per hour, and that's going to go along the straight line winds that we'll be diving into in just a moment. Can't rule out large hail where it could be over 1 inch in diameter, and then flooding will remain a possibility given that we're forecasting 1 to up to 3 inches of rainfall through the course of today and tomorrow. And then tornadic activity remains possible. We just can't rule it out. First round that's starting to cross the state line, well, that could arrive as we head into 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. and round 2 will be after 6 o'clock. So there's just a brief window where you get a break, and then that round 2 arrives. If we do see the production of large hail close to 1 inch in diameter, that would be equivalent to a quarter size. Otherwise, upward of that is ping pong ball size hail or even bigger. And so that would be damaging, and the ping pong ball size would be considered severe. Clouds and radar as we zip through the timeline. Looks like this will be maybe a little more prominent by 2, what's coming out of Granger. And then we get that little break, 6 o'clock, boom, there is the low pressure system rolling through, bringing some strong to severe storms across the area. Still dealing with heavy rain at 10. I think by midnight, severe threat should lift, but we'll still have some remnant showers on the back edge of that system going into tomorrow morning before we dry things out. After that, heat is going to be the next weather maker. But before we even crank up the heat, another look at the heavier rain that'll track up into the thumb region where we pick up upward of 1 inch. So a hot dome of air will build in this weekend going into next week. And that translates to actual air temperatures in the mid-90s. But heat indices will be warmer than that. We're going to feel like triple digits starting Sunday, going all the way into early next week. So once we get past today's event, we'll be focusing on the potential for dangerous heat, especially for the Ford fireworks. But forewarned weather alert today is for this afternoon and evening, given that we have the severe threat, with the biggest threat being damaging winds. And so earlier, I went to the University of Michigan inside a wind tunnel to really dive into how those straight line winds can create just as much damage as tornado events.
Okay, what you're gonna do is step into each one of those. Bring this up. So your arm will go through here. Flip these together so you don't go down the wind tunnel. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's go. That's 30 miles an hour. It's gonna start to get a little uncomfortable in there. This is 40 miles an hour.
I think this would be the speed where I would not be able to stand on my own 2 feet without this harness.
Where are we at, Chris? 45 miles an hour.
Yeah, I can't stand on my own.
It's difficult to breathe. It's 70 miles an hour. Still increasing. Okay.
I feel like I need to pop my ears. How does my hair look?
You did very well. Actually, it was all stuck right to the top.
How'd I do?
You did great. You're 75 miles an hour.
When we're talking about wind gusts of 70, 80 miles per hour, like that's what that would knock you off your feet for sure.
Right, yep.
Just like your body, there's a threshold for what buildings can withstand too. Dr. Seymour Spence teaches and studies the effects of high winds on infrastructure at the University of Michigan.
Poles can start to get damaged at around 60 miles an hour. So anything above that is when we're expecting something bad could start to occur.
This was the wind damage just last week in Beverly Hills, downing trees and power lines. And this past April, 65-mile-per-hour winds ripped roofs off of buildings in Ferndale.
Ultimately, buildings will have direct wind damage due to pressures. The pressure can then build up enough to actually create a loss of a roof panel, a siding panel. Then you can start to get internal pressurization, which can lead progressively to the entire loss, for example, of a roof on a building.
Are there any tips for people residentially to depressurize their home before a big severe weather event rolls through?
Absolutely. The important thing is keep all your doors and windows and garages closed. You do not want any air coming into your building. What's going to happen is if you have an open door or a window that's open, air gets in, pressure builds up inside your building, and then you start to get positive pressures trying to actually rip components off your building.
So when you see storms on radar, they may start in a scattered nature, fueled by moisture in the environment. Now, sometimes those storms become linear, and when they do, they're likely severe. The backside winds can become stronger than the winds ahead of the storms, forcing the line to bow out. Meteorologists refer to this as a bow echo on radar, which indicates the area of strongest wind. So let's translate what you see on radar compared to what you see at the surface. Located near a base of a thunderstorm is a shelf cloud. These are wedge-shaped and typically associated with severe winds. This warmer and more humid air gets pushed above the cooler air, helping to develop the tall, ominous clouds that are associated with thunderstorms. Damaging winds occur when the storms are able to pull fast winds in the atmosphere down to the surface through a downdraft. About 90% of our convective warnings issued in southeast Michigan have historically been for severe thunderstorms concerning damaging winds and or large hail, as opposed to tornadoes. So the next time you brush off a severe thunderstorm warning, remember what 70-mile-per-hour winds look like.
Looks like Ashley's cheeks flapping about.
It's like a facelift. But yeah, hopefully that illustrates to people. I mean, the threshold for me to be knocked off my feet was about 40, 45 miles per hour. And today we're talking about upward of 70-mile-per-hour gusts. So you're stuck outside in that, you get knocked over, and then that's enough to cause damage on your home.
I didn't think about the pressure building up in your home to just shut everything.
Right. So yeah, you want the garage closed, the windows closed, and even think about like how pressure builds up in your ears when you're on an airplane. Like that's what I was feeling in that wind tunnel.
Oh, really? You could feel that, yeah.
Yeah, and so you have the same kind of idea, the pressure in your home, if you were to allow some of those strong winds to come in.
Were you nervous at all when you were in there?
Nervous that I wouldn't be able to breathe once I got to the 70 mile per hour. Yeah, that's why I was like, I want to be able to breathe again. Yeah.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. Let's take a live look over downtown Detroit right now. Kim DeGiulio from Live in the D is going to join us to talk about what's happening on Live in the D in 1 hour and 8 minutes from now. All right, this is how it works. You send them, we show them. That's it. My pick of the day. Tadia has a submission from Ellen. I should say today. Let's start that over again. I thought that was the name. Today we have a submission from Ellen in her unknown corner of Michigan. Don't laugh at me, Kim DeGiulio.
I mean, it's cute. Tadia, I'm thinking of that for a name for the baby.
This is from Ellen, a beautiful photo showing some clouds following some morning showers.
Wait, is that her yard?
I think so.
I want to live there.
Right?
That looks nice.
Just remember, if you, your friends, your family, if Tadia wants to send something in, even your mailman, submit it to My Picks. Scan the QR code there on the bottom of your screen. Would Tadia be a good name?
Tadia Yaros. No, I'm good on that.
Do you have a name picked out? Are you good? You're solid?
We do. We have a name, but it's
good.
top
It's a secret. It's a secret.
Yes.
Does Kevin know?
Yeah, he knows. He had some say.
A little bit. Okay, what's happening? So America's Got Talent. These singers.
The Funketeers.
And the dancing. I'm loving this.
Oh, look at this. This is incredible. They were on America's Got Talent last night.
Yep.
Hopefully you were able to watch it, but I guess I could spoil it now because it already happened.
Yeah, we saw it.
Terry Crews gave them the golden buzzer, which last time we saw that, remember?
It was Detroit Youth Choir, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yes,
obviously Terry Crews, he loves his hometown from
If
Flint.
you're from Michigan, you might have a good connection, right?
But I don't think they needed any favoritism here because look at Terry trying. He's so excited. But yes, they were incredible. They got the golden buzzer. Even Simon Cowell was smiling through the whole performance and even said it might be the perfect audition.
Yes.
So that was really cool. And the most exciting part, we're going to be talking to them today on Live in the D.
Are they here?
They're not here.
It's virtual.
Exactly.
Okay, that's close
exactly.
enough. Right.
I think they're in LA.
Oh yeah,
still.
Probably doing some stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're big time now, right?
I always, when I look at shows like that, my barometer, my metric is would I watch an entire 2-hour show of that?
And would you?
100%.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, and they just seem so wholesome too. When they were talking, they said that they started the Funketeers as a high school talent show act because they wanted to win the girls over. They wanted to impress the girls.
This was a way to get the ladies.
Yes, and I'm sure it worked well for them.
Clearly, look at that. By the way, maybe that Funketeer could be a middle name for your baby.
Tadia.
Tadia Funketeer.
Tadia Funketeer. You know what? We're onto something here.
I love it. I love it.
But yes, I am so excited to talk to them and just kind of hear what that was like, getting that golden buzzer. And also seeing a smile on Simon Cowell's face.
And Terry Crews. Make it a great day, everybody.
Amazing.
Today on Live in the D, some important news for those of you who suffer from migraine headaches. The condition affects women more than men. We'll show you how artificial intelligence could help diagnose and treat migraines in the future. Plus, a popular membership-only warehouse club is giving its members $10 for free. But there's a catch, what you have to do to get the cash, and how Wayne County high school artists are getting an opportunity to showcase their work. It's all coming up today on Live in the D at 11.